Test, test. Test, test. Test, test. 1, 2. Good? Yeah, you're welcome.
I want to thank everybody for being here for an update on where things stand, especially here in Hemphill County. But before I do, I want to comment on the incredibly tragic and sad news about Fritch Fire Chief Zeb Smith losing his life today while fighting a fire in Hutchinson County. It is always a tragedy to lose any life, but to see one of our chiefs, a first responder, working to battle back against flames and losing his life in the line of duty is something that we never want to see. And I just want to be able to reach out to his family and let his family know how proud and grateful the entire state of Texas is for a person who leaves such a legacy that he was willing to put his own life on the line to save the property of others. And that is what Texas heroism is all about. Today I'm here with County Judge Johnson from Hemphill County, as well as with a lot of officials that you see behind me, but I want to recognize the state senator for this area, Senator Sparks, and the local state representative, Ken King, and thank them for their proactive work to make sure that the needs, the extraordinary needs of this particular area are first identified, and then strategies are being used at the state level to make sure that those needs are being met. The one overall perception gain from meeting with these officials behind me in the room before coming out is something that we often see, especially in this part of the state of Texas. And that is, whenever there is some tragedy like this that arises, you see Texans pulling together. You see neighbor helping neighbor, county helping county. This entire region pulls together, and they are pulling together more strongly, more united than maybe anybody has ever seen. And it makes you proud to be a Texan, to see the way that Texans handle adversity and the way that the adversity that Texans face brings out the best in our fellow Texans. It doesn't gloss over or eliminate the depth of the tragedy that people have experienced, including the loss of life and the total devastation of property. But it is heartwarming to see the way that Texans respond. The tragedy of what's been lost is nothing short of catastrophic. You could see flying over the entire region the massive size of the fires that have just engulfed the entire panhandle. Then as, of course, you're close to ground, you see that what was once homes or other structures or property has been reduced to nothing more than ashes, something that can never be used again whatsoever. And that amplifies the magnitude of the devastation that so many families have suffered across this entire area. We're dealing with an area right here that is the largest area for fire in Texas history. And as I understand it from the judge, about 70% of Hemphill County was burned. 47 families have been displaced. And these families face a life of total uncertainty at this time. This is something where everything in their life has been incinerated, and they are grappling with the immediate consequences of having no place to call home. Because in part of the people in this region reaching out, helping others, there are some people who have immediate homes. Because of the Red Cross is stepping up to provide shelter, at least in the short run. But the fact of the matter is, we as a state and we as a community here in Hemphill County, we all need to make sure that the people who have lost their homes, they're going to have a pathway to restoration of a place where they can live and they can call home. Along those lines, a task force has been created to address those needs with funding going to the First Baptist Church 501c3. This right here is a sign for people to make donations to. And trust me, these people need donations at this time like never before, and we want to make sure donations are getting to a location that's not going to be fraudulent, that's not going to be using up the money, but instead providing the money to those who have lost everything in helping these people recover and get back to a sense of normalcy as quickly as possible. One thing that we found is not just our fellow Texans, but our fellow Americans are always so incredibly generous during these times when their fellow Americans have faced devastation. And let me just say thank you in advance to everybody across the state and across the country who is willing to step up and help out with making a donation at this website location, so that you're going to be able to help these families be able to rebuild as quickly as possible. I want you to know that we also at the state level have the One Star Foundation, where we will be looking to also provide assistance. And I will say in advance that we've already seen an outpouring of support from people across the state and the country. But even with that outpouring of support, there's far more that's going to be needed to help these families who have truly lost absolutely every tangible thing of value in their lives. Along the lines of what is needed, there's also an extraordinary need for hay. There's a lot of cattle in the entire region that have no food. And again, there has been a big outpouring of support. But the hay that has been delivered has already been used for the most part. And the reality is, for not just days, but for months, there's going to be far more hay that is needed. I'm very proud and grateful for our fellow Texans stepping up and helping out, as well as other states that are willing to provide assistance, and farmers and ranchers and donors and supporters across America. But I just want all of them and all of you all to know that there is much more hay that's going to be needed for all the livestock across the entire region. And the more and the quicker that you can provide it, all the better. I mentioned two other things with a caveat. Two other things that are very much needed, and that is fencing materials and cattle cubes. The caveat here, and that is, we don't want a lot of people just funneling in whatever fencing material they may have, because there are certain specifications that have to be met in order to have the type and quality of fencing that's needed for the ranches in this area. But there are ways in which that information can be obtained that NIMKID can provide more information to you about. It's my understanding that here in Hemphill County, Judge, I think there was one loss of life in your county, and we join you in our sorrow for that loss of life. But we do need to underscore that the tireless work of all the firefighters who stepped up and worked around the clock, when you think and realize this is the largest fire in the history of the state of Texas as far as the size is concerned, that because of the remarkable efforts by our firefighters, that they were able to limit the loss of life is remarkable. And one reason for that is because what firefighters know, and that is the first thing you seek to do in any fire is to protect life. The second thing you seek to do is to protect property. And they have worked around the clock, and as everyone has told me, the damages that would have been sustained would have been extraordinarily more complicated had it not been for what the firefighters were able to achieve. One story told to me is at the local hospital is another example of people who responded both uniquely, flexibly, and quickly and effectively. Is the local hospital. They had to evacuate 66 patients first to Pampa and then to a different location. That is a daunting task to be able to undertake and to be able to accomplish. And to everybody involved in that hospital, we owe a debt of gratitude for what they were able to achieve, but it demonstrates the type of flexibility and the way that either officials or families are able to respond very quickly in a time of need that achieves a good result. One thing that is needed on an ongoing basis, and that is more information that will provide the state of Texas with the data that we need to have more accurate damage assessments that will help the state of Texas be able to apply for additional federal funding. And that's an ongoing process that we will continue to work with all of our local communities on. But we really want to express our gratitude to all of the local officials here in Hemphill County as well as across the entire region. But knowing also that as they work, there are 14 state agencies as well as 45 local agencies all working by their sides to assist them as they work their way through recovery of this horrific fire. And I say recovery, I want to be clear about something. The fire's not over yet. And as Chief Kidd and others will explain in more detail, even though progress has been made, it is wrong if anybody thinks the fire is over and they can let down their guard. Because of weather conditions that may arise later on this week, it is essential that everybody in this entire region, everybody in the Panhandle, maintain their vigilance, maintain their access to information, especially from your local officials who will know best about the extent to which in your county or in your community, whether or not you have the potential of facing immediate and imminent harm and danger. So just be attuned to the reality that the fire is not yet put out, has not yet been extinguished. And until it is, and with the weather conditions constantly changing, we all need to maintain vigilance to make sure that nobody else loses their life and that everybody to the fullest extent possible can maintain the safety of their property. But to tell you more about the way things are here in Hemphill County, I turn to the Hemphill County Judge, Judge Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. While the Smokehouse Creek fire has changed our landscape, it has not changed who we are. Who we are as a community is a community who shows up for each other, who puts our neighbors' needs before our own. This was demonstrated by our first responders who put themselves in harm's way to save lives and property, and even more incredibly so by those who continued to work even though they found out that they were among those whose homes had been destroyed. It was demonstrated again when our neighbors began helping neighbors immediately after returning from evacuation. It continues to be demonstrated not only by our wonderful local residents, but by those across the Panhandle and the great state of Texas who continue to show up for us. The Smokehouse Creek fire is now the largest wildfire in Texas history. And while this is not the part of history that any of us wanted to make, what I believe will remain in our hearts is the gratitude that is sustaining us now. Gratitude for every kindness that has been shown and for what remains, our resolve. Resolve to keep showing up for each other and lifting up our neighbors because that is who we are in Canadian and Hemphill County. Our hearts break for the family of Cindy Owens, who tragically lost her life as a result of the fire, and for those in our community and across the Panhandle who have lost their homes, property, and livestock. We will be with you throughout the process of rebuilding. You are not alone. We have felt the love and prayers for our community, not just from our home state of Texas, but from across the country. We ask that you continue to lift us up going forward. We will rise from these ashes. I want to express my personal thanks to those who have supported us through this crisis. First of all, our local volunteer fire departments and those in the area who fought the fire with us. Our local law enforcement who worked around the clock, and having set up our emergency operations center at the sheriff's office, I have a renewed respect for what our law enforcement does 24 hours a day. Our county and city crews who showed up and just helped in any way that they could. My emergency management coordinator, Bill Kendall, who is also our airport manager and who is taking care of things at the airport right now. The Texas Department of Public Safety, especially our local troopers. They stayed with us through all of it. They gave us terrific advice and guidance in the decisions that we made. The Texas Division of Emergency Management showed up early on Tuesday and began guiding us through the process of emergency management. Without them, things wouldn't have turned out the same. The Texas A&M Forest Service, Texas Task Force 1 Search and Rescue. This organization covered every inch of our county, assessing the damage and making sure that we hadn't lost people that we didn't know about. They actually were able to do that in a 12-hour span. They started at 7 in the morning and they finished about 7 in the evening, and were able to give us a report the next morning. We're extremely grateful. The Texas A&M Veterinary Service, who has been on site from the get-go and continues to help with livestock. We've got some little baby calves that no longer have a mother out at the pens at our rodeo arena, and those veterinary services are taking care of those baby calves, along with beloved family pets that have been injured, and we appreciate their support. The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, especially our local agents, our local agents have set up a team of volunteers that I believe is like none other. They've also set up the donation points for ag-related materials as well as non-ag-related materials. And those volunteers have connected with every single family. They have spoken to every single family that lost their home. And our first priority was making sure that those folks had a short-term and then a long-term shelter plan. We couldn't be in the shape that we're in without them. And many other agencies, too many to mention. I'd also like to do a shout out to the families of our first responders and all of these folks that have been working this emergency from the get-go. There have been days of separation for those families, and we appreciate their support. The wives of our local volunteer fire department have been incredible in organizing the donations that have come into our local fire department. They are rock stars. I want to commend our Hemphill County Hospital staff who, along with volunteer bus drivers, successfully evacuated those 66 residents and patients of Mesa View Assisted Living, Senior Living, and our hospital. They evacuated them not once but twice. It was an incredible effort. I'd like to thank Governor Abbott, Tatum Chief Nim Kidd, U.S. Senator John Cornyn, House Representative Ken King, Senator Kevin Sparks, Senator Ted Cruz, who are either here today or have called over the days that we've been working to offer their support and inquire about our needs. We will need your continued support in the weeks and the months ahead to restore our community. And may God bless those who have lost so much and those who are working so hard to restore them. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. And now Dr. Avery.
Hello, my name is Rick Avery, and I am Director of Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. And first and foremost, I just want to offer my thoughts and concerns about everyone who's been affected by this wide-ranging event, both here in Hemphill County and across the Panhandle. So many lives have been affected, and if you are a part of this area, everyone's lives have been affected. First and foremost, I think we're concerned about human life, and we're also concerned about the long-term effects of this region economically. As has been mentioned, there's a lot of folks who are helping in this event, from state agencies to first responders to just a lot of unnamed and unseen people who are working behind the scenes, including volunteers. One of the things that we do in the Extension Service, or one of our unique strengths, is that we're in local communities across the state. And as the judge mentioned, our local extension office and extension agents have worked tirelessly to help coordinate with volunteers as they all help to serve this community in a time of need. As I mentioned, everyone's affected, and we think about all those in the other locations across the Panhandle who are facing challenges. We have, as the governor mentioned, there's an ongoing need for resources in the ag community. Of course, ranching is a huge part of this part of the world. Ongoing needs for hay, and there's opportunities to give. All eyes in Texas are on this region, but also across the United States. We've received donations from across the country, and those continue to pour in. And while there are immediate needs that are being met right now, we must always remember that this is an ongoing event. Even after all the flames have been doused, that those needs will continue. And as attentions turn in other directions, we must always remember that there's going to be recovery going on here. There's recovery already starting, even as the fires continue to burn. And we would just ask that support and those thoughts continue into the future. I would really like to emphasize, though, that as people think, as they give, their heart is in the right place of giving, that people, and this is very important, really do some due diligence, and we do the best we can to educate in terms of specifically what is needed. A lot of people with their heart in the right place give a lot of materials during a time of crisis, but some of those are not quite as helpful immediately as some of the other needs. Hay has been mentioned here as a need, and fencing supplies, but they have to be of the right specification really to do some good. So we would continue to ask that people look in those directions for specific needs where help could be needed. As we think about the future, especially along the ag side of things, this fire event will affect the economy, the ag economy for the region for a long time to come. And so the Extension Service, one of our roles that we'll be playing is education moving forward. I know we'll have a lot of questions from agricultural producers about, you know, when and where and how to bring along rangeland that's been damaged in this event, and that will be, we're already starting to push out some of that information, and we'll continue to do so in the future. But I cannot also overemphasize the amount of coordination that must and has occurred in this event. I think the governor named the number of agencies who have been engaged in this at this time, and there's a lot of coordination that goes on to make sure we have a unified response and can best serve the needs of the local communities. And so we thank you for being here today to help amplify those messages.
Thank you. And now Chief Kidd with the Texas Division of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Governor. I also want to echo my thoughts, prayers, and condolences to the family of Chief Smith. Chief Smith was with us last Friday when we did another briefing and got information from him. He's a great man. He will be sorely missed, and we will continue to support his family and his department going forward. Also want to take a quick second to thank Chief Brewster of the Canadian Volunteer Fire Department for letting us use his facility and the support he's given to your community. Great organization, Judge. Life safety will remain our number one priority. That's the safety of the citizens and the safety of the responders as we continue to move forward. Property protection and property conservation is number 2 on that list, right behind the life safety. We want to make sure that we have the right firefighting resources here to continue to support this. And the governor mentioned the containment is moving up. That does not mean the fire is out. That does not mean the danger is gone. The Smokehouse Creek fire has a perimeter of a little over 550 miles. The men and women that are out there right now are doing everything they can to put a perimeter around that, so as we see up to 3 different wind shifts just in today's weather and additional fire weather coming in Thursday and Friday, we do not want any escaped embers getting out of that and starting a new fire. The next thing I need is the community's help in no new starts. We've got a tremendous amount of resources here in the Panhandle. We'll jump on any new fire that starts, but over 90% of wildfires are human caused. Do everything we can not to start any more fires in this area of the country right now. As we move past property protection and conservation, we'll move into recovery. That's the human aspect of this, to continue to find housing, short-term and long-term, for those impacted residents, and the agricultural community. This is such an important part of our state's business that we will do everything we can to make sure that our ag producers in this area have the state and federal resources that they need. We're in partnership with the Farm Service Agency, the FSA. Today, I know there's another meeting that probably just started here. We want to continue to bring those resources into this community. Finally, I need to thank one of my other bosses, Chancellor John Sharp, standing back over here. People often wonder what a land-grant university system does and why are they so important. This is what a land-grant university system does. The A&M University system houses the Texas A&M Forest Service and AgriLife Extension and the Division of Emergency Management. And our job is to work together out in the field with communities just like this to make sure there are no unmet needs that these communities have. We have to thank our men and women of the Forest Service, AgriLife Extension, Texas A&M Task Force 1, the VET team, our Department of Public Safety, State Health Services, our emergency medical task forces that are here in the field with us, Department of Transportation, Environmental Quality, and so many other state agencies. Additionally, we need to thank our volunteers, the people that have just come out of the woodwork just to do everything they can and help. And I just want to take my hats off to the students that are out there helping right now as well. I want to thank them very much. To the parents of those students, you're raising them right. Thank you for that. Governor, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll take any questions.
Governor, what have you heard on a federal level about the federal response out here?
Well, Chief Kidd will know most about that. I'll have him respond to it.
So our FEMA regional administrator has been in contact with us every day. You know, the governor asked for a fire management assistance grant, an FMAG grant is what you'll hear it called. That was granted by FEMA the day that we requested it. That will cover up to 75% of the firefighting costs for responding to the FMAG fires, which are the Windy Deuce and the Smokehouse Creek. The rest of those fire costs will be borne by the state of Texas and citizens only. We are also in conversation with the Small Business Administration. They will be on the ground already, and as soon as it's safe to do so, interacting with our communities to help do Small Business Administration loans to the to the families and the businesses that were impacted, in conversations with the Texas Department of Agriculture to get all of the USDA support as well. So we're in close contact with our federal government partners on this.
Thank you. Go ahead. Could you hear the question?
I couldn't hear the question, ma'am. Would you say again? I do. So the federal disaster declaration process is pretty complex. Our state, in accordance with federal law, needs $54 million of uninsured government lost or cost. And at this point, we're at a fraction of that, as devastating as this fire is. The next, for the individual assistance side of homes, there's a complex formula, and I can give you the code for it, of the federal regulations. The thumb rule is Texas needs about 800 homes, major damage or destroyed, without insurance before federal government can come for that. And listen, I don't want to give any false hope right now, but even that federal aid is roughly less than $70,000 at best. Our best course of action right now is to continue to work with our faith-based organizations and our volunteer folks that are right here in force and help those families and communities recover as fast as possible.
Thank you.
What kind of firefighter assets, like, what is kind of the number of firefighter assets that we have working on the fires?
Governor, happy to answer that. So you have over 337 TIFMAS firefighters, which are structural and wildland firefighters from all over the state that are supporting all of your local volunteers right now. In addition, the Forest Service has almost 100 personnel out here. There's 23 aircraft in theater right now, and almost 100 different fire apparatus that are surrounding this fire right now. This is the most important place in the state right now for active fires, but you'll see fire weather will work its way down a little more to the west and maybe down into South Texas by this next weekend. So in addition to those here, we're also staging across the state for a quick response anywhere else.
Preliminary evaluation pointed to 400 structures destroyed. Is there an updated number at the moment? And also, is there any more information on the potential cost of smokehouse fires?
Yeah, happy to answer that. So the damage assessments continue, working with not only the Red Cross, but all of our organizations that are out there. We're at about 350, and I'm still going to say, like we said on Friday, structures damaged, right? We have to go back in and find the homeowners of those structures to find out if they were primary residence, secondary residence, or ranch house, or a barn. So the most important thing that we're doing right now is supporting our judges and mayors, working with the citizens to make sure that they have shelter and that they have a plan going forward.
With the loss of livestock, I understand it impacts the ranchers. Do you have early projections about how it's going to impact grocery prices, things like that?
I think it's safe to say they're going to go up, but yeah, the price of beef already is at a pretty high level, and certainly an incident like this is going to have a upward effect on pricing moving forward. At this point, we don't know. We have economists who are already sussing through the information to see what the ultimate impact will be on that.
With the federal farm bill in limbo, what state resources are available for farmers and ranchers that are impacted?
Yeah, so great question, and you still have the Texas Department of Agriculture here who we are working with in order to be able to give those. When the feds figure out whatever they figure out, we'll bring them into the mix right now. I think the best thing that we can do through your help is making sure that these websites listed here are out there for people that have the resources to donate so they can get straight into the hands of the people that need them today.
What is the time frame to report damage? Because I know there's a certain amount of time that triggers a certain amount. So what is the time frame that people have to get damage turned in so it can be?
Yeah, great question, and I think we've mentioned this already, but I want to say it again. If your home or your property was damaged, the first thing we want you to do is contact your insurance agent if you have insurance. That's the fastest form of recovery. The second, for a federal public assistance declaration or individual assistance declaration, the federal government gives us 30 days to report those damages. Now, 30 days is a long time, and that's why our teams are out scouring the landscape right now for damage assessments to get those numbers in.
Do you have a number on the homes affected in Hemphill, Roberts, and Hutchinson County?
Judge, you want to answer that for your county?
So we've identified 112 possible dwellings that were destroyed, and that was done by the Task Force 1 search and rescue team. However, our volunteers have identified 47 families that we know that lost homes. So what we believe is that some of those residences were unoccupied. So 47 is the number for Hemphill County.
Judge Locke, anything from Roberts?
We've identified 17 homes in Roberts County, and like the others, we're trying to determine if those were empty, single-family homes, and that's still an ongoing process.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Be with
appreciate
you.
you being here.
We'll be here every step of the way.